Anyway, everyone, just a quick video today about Bradley Manning, the suspected leak of information that's been released by Wikileaks over the last several months in conjunction with their media partners. Just was on Twitter the other day, saw a couple of tweets by Shredder is Alive, basically criticising Wikileaks for supposedly hanging Manning out to dry. This is what he said. He says, Assange has had £240,000 donated for bail on his rape charge and will make over $1 million for his autobiography, yet he still wants donations. Then he says, ask WikiLeaks supporters about Private Manning. He's the alleged source and has spent 7 months in solitary. Total donated to his defence, $60,000. And I replied saying, WikiLeaks actually have very publicly been in support of Manning. They put lots of information out there regarding his position. He replied saying, well, it's interesting that Assange is getting all this money for his defence, yet his accused source is being hung out to dry. Not really being hung out to dry at all, actually. In fact, very recently, WikiLeaks has donated £15,000 to the defence fund for Private Bradley Manning. There's only really a discrepancy in the differences in amount of money that's been donated to both entities, because WikiLeaks was demanded this amount be given for Assange, really, for his release from bail on these rape charges. It was quite a crazy amount that it was asked for his bail to be released when he's still not been charged. They're still only wanting to extradite him for questioning. He's not been charged with anything yet, so it was a completely disproportionate reaction from Sweden, and a disproportionate amount of money that was asked for in return for his release. So yes, it seems like a massive amount, and it was a massive amount. This money was donated by lots of interested parties, supporters, very vocal supporters, people like Michael Moore, this kind of thing. Of course, Assange, it was important that he, as the figurehead, was out and able to be instrumental in the continued release of the cables and work that WikiLeaks are doing. So it was important to get him out there. It's important also to make a point there about the fact that these cases, this case from Sweden does seem to be, well, nobody can say for definite whether or not it's true, of course, but we can certainly say with complete surety that there's been a lot of protocol broken. There's been a lot of things done wrong, basically, in the process. But the amount of money that was spent on his release was dictated by the courts. And yes, Assange has agreed for a book deal for £1 million for his autobiography. This was pretty much as a necessity. All the money from this book, a vast majority of this money from the book release deal, is going to go straight back into WikiLeaks. As we all know, they've had a lot of their accounts suspended, a lot of their donations denied access to on sites like Visa and MasterCard. Major companies that have been bullied into opposing WikiLeaks and stifling their efforts by the US government. Recently we saw that Twitter was issued with a subpoena to release information on WikiLeaks supporters. Now, Twitter actually, to their credit, fought that subpoena because it originally asked to give that information over in secret without informing the people that the information was in relation to. Twitter was successful in fighting that subpoena, the part of it that says it had to be in secret. So that information came out there, including an Icelandic MP whose information was requested by the US government. And we're not just talking about Twitter activity here. This relates to a massive amount of personal information such as IP addresses, actual postal addresses, and lots of other things as well. It's pretty worrying, given the reason that they were given for requesting all this information of different supporters of WikiLeaks was to go towards the case that they're trying to build against Assange, which is to directly involve him with a conspiracy charge. To do so, they will have to establish a closer link between him and Bradley Manning than WikiLeaks said there was, basically. But to get back onto the point about Manning, yes, 15 grand has been donated by WikiLeaks to his defence fund. WikiLeaks and Assange have continually put the information out there and mentioned in interviews and supported Manning whenever these issues have been discussed in the national media. So to say he's been hung out to dry is really false. The conditions that Manning has been held in is pretty disgusting, really. He's currently been held in maximum custody since arriving at Quantico confinement facility in July 2010. He's been held under the Prevention of Injury watch, basically suicide watch. His cell is approximately 6 feet wide and 12 feet in length. The cell has a bed, a drinking fountain and a toilet. The guards at the confinement facility professional. No time have they tried to bully, harass or embarrass Manning, apparently. Given the nature of their job, however, they do not engage in conversation with Manning. At 5 a.m. he's woken. On weekends he's allowed to sleep till 7. Under the rules for the confinement facility, he's not allowed to sleep at any time between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. If he attempts to sleep during those hours, he'll be made to sit up or stand up by the guards. He's allowed to watch television during the day. The television stations are limited to the basic local stations. His access to the television ranges from 1 to 3 hours on weekdays and 3 to 6 hours on weekends. He's allowed to have any combination of up to 15 books or magazines. He must request the book or magazine by name. Once the book or magazine has been reviewed by a literary board at the confinement facility and approved, he's allowed to have someone on his approved list send it to him. The person sending the book or magazine must do so through a publisher or an approved distributor such as Amazon. They are not allowed to mail the book or magazine directly to Manning. Due to being on the Prevention of Injury watch, Manning is held in his cell for approximately 23 hours a day. The guards are required to check on Manning every 5 minutes by asking him if he's okay. Manning is required to respond in some affirmative manner. At night, if the guards cannot see Manning clearly because he's in a blanket as over his head or he's curled up towards the wall, they will wake him in order to make sure he's alright. He receives each of his meals in his cell. He's not allowed to have a pillow or sheets. However, he's given access to 2 blankets and has recently been given a new mattress as a built-in pillow. He's not allowed to have any personal items in his cell. He's only allowed to have 1 book or magazine at any given time to read in his cell. The book or magazine is taken away from him at the end of the day before he goes to sleep. He's prevented from exercising in his cell. If he attempts to do push-ups, sit-ups or any other form of exercise, he will be forced to stop. He does receive 1 hour of exercise outside his cell daily. He's taken to an empty room and only allowed to walk. Manning normally just walks in figure 8 in the room for an entire hour. So these are pretty draconian measures for this guy to be kept in. You know, remember, this is not a convicted serial killer. You know, this is not. These conditions are actually worse than those on death row. You know, this is a guy that has been held before he's even been officially convicted of anything. They're building a case against him. He's not been convicted of anything. He's been held pre-trial. So it's pretty draconian. To me, the worst thing in that whole list of things that might not seem that bad, the worst thing to me is that he's not allowed to exercise. He's going to become weaker and weaker and weaker the whole time, and also this very strict control over his sleeping patterns. Woken up at 5 a.m. And not allowed to go to sleep at all again till 8 p.m. later on. He's allowed the books. I mean, I would hope that this guy is using the fact that he's allowed books and magazines to spend the time in there to keep himself occupied, to keep himself mentally strong. I mean, you can imagine the scenario. What else can you do? I mean, you can request, you know, all the greats and get through reading all those books he always meant to that he never did. And hopefully that's the one thing that he can do in there and is doing, hopefully, to hold on to some mental stability. They're obviously trying to break him down mentally and physically with a view to building this case with trying to get him to agree to a plea bargain, which will involve him basically fessing up to a closer relationship with Assange than was previously thought. Assange and Wikileaks have said over and over again that, you know, we don't know our sources. Assange said that I didn't know that this Paddy Manning was the supposed source of this information until it came out in the media. The Pentagon and the US Department of Defense is trying to suggest that, no, contrary to that, Assange was in close personal contact with Manning, and that he'd set up private servers and helped with the extradition of this information, exfiltration of this information in a lot more closer way to build a case for conspiracy. It's still quite a shaky case though, because then basically what they're saying is that if you are involved in any way with the exfiltration of information that is brought to you from a government source, then you can be done for, you know, conspiracy. But this is a regular practice of journalists. Investigative journalism regularly involves some kind of assistance to the leakers of information. Indeed, often it includes actual financial remuneration and assistance to get that information out there. So the case seems pretty shaky. It's taken them a long time and they're still not finished in putting this together. But yeah, Manning's situation is pretty dire. But the criticism that I've seen on Twitter and elsewhere that WikiLeaks is hanging him out to dry is just not true. They're donating financially. They're making it very public their support of him and his plight there. I'll put a link into Private Paddy Manning's website, defence website. So in response to the conditions that have been experienced by Manning at Quantico, the defence has raised its objection to these conditions on multiple occasions. And the defence filed a formal complaint with the commander of Quantico Brig On the same day, Manning also filed a formal complaint through the confinement grievances process. Both complaints requested that the confinement facility remove Manning from Prevention of Injury Watch and that his classification level be reduced from maximum to medium detention. The confinement facility did not respond to either complaint. Due to the lack of responses from the facility, the defence filed a request earlier today with the garrison commander to direct the release of Manning from this pre-trial confinement. The request is based upon the fact that the confinement conditions currently being endured by Manning are more rigorous than necessary to guarantee his presence at trial, and that the concerns raised by the government at the time of pre-trial confinement are no longer applicable. And that information comes from information released by David E. Coombs, who is Manning's defence lawyer. He's got his own Twitter account, which is giving updates on that defence. So I'll put a link into his Twitter, and again, a link into Manning's support website. And there's probably a lot more to come on this, so I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Private Manning was an analyst. If what they say is true, he was paid to read reports, find the patterns sifting through. As he read the data, the patterns did emerge, patterns that were clear both before and since the surge, patterns of abuse of the most horrific kind, gunning down civilians out of view and out of mind, gunning down the opposition in the middle of the night, sending off the scholars to be tortured out of sight. Sometimes you need desperate measures when you live in desperate times. Private Manning saw he was looking at war crimes. He wondered what to do to allow the dead to speak. He finally decided to contact Wikileaks. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. Has to live within his skin. He stabbed Bradley in the back, called the cops and turned him in, but not before the soldier took 500,000 files. If you printed all the pages, they'd stretch on for miles. Evidence against the state, right from the horse's mouth. Machinations in the west, bombings in the south. A treasure trove of details for all the globe to see. How much they need to lie and kill for democracy. How many drone strikes have hit villages, leaving everyone to die. They blamed it on someone else, the official lied, not I. How many coups have been plotted by ambassadors who say that free and fair elections be the order of the day. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. Now the genie's out of the bottle and they're trying to stuff it back and stop it from illuminating everything we lack, such as the rule of law or playing by the book. Look, you can read it, it's right here. The ship of state is run by crooks, and they vilify the messengers, call them every name for daring to blow the whistle on the nature of their game. The game of taking lives and endangering the rest in order for the wealthy few to do what they do best, dominate the world for the corporate elite. But now their covers blown from their head down to their feet, and now the stars and stripes is looking much more like a rag. The lid is off the box, the cat's out of the bag. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes. Now it's all out on the table and everybody knows the emperor is naked, he's not wearing any clothes.